reason one individual is able to have the net worth of $1 trillion is the same reason you can't afford a house or kids. It's why your high street is empty. It's why small businesses are suffering. And it's equally why so many people are applauding him, buying SpaceX shares and wishing to be like him. Because your salary not stretching and the applause comes from the same place. Now lend me just a couple minutes of your time and I will explain how. So the richest man alive actually has barely any money. Under 0.1% of what he owns is in cash. His salary from Tesla is zero. His whole fortune is in stocks, which is slices of ownership in Tesla and SpaceX. So how does he live like a literal trillionaire when almost none of his money is something that he can actually spend? It's because he borrows. The ultra wealthy are playing a completely different game than the rest of us. They avoid selling their shares because selling triggers a tax bill just as it does for us. So instead, they take their shares to a bank as security and the bank hands them millions in cash at tiny interest rates, which are smaller than the capital gains tax would be if they sold their shares. So that's how the rich can have mansions, jets and cars without a single share being sold and without a mega tax bill. And then they die, their children inherit, and a loophole wipes the unpaid tax clean, and it's so routine by the ultra wealthy that it has a name: buy, borrow, die. And it's how some of the wealthiest people in this country pay 11% of what they actually gain in a year, sometimes even lower. It's actually lower than what someone who is on 15 grand a year pays. And sure, in raw numbers, the ultra wealthy pays a huge amount of tax in comparison to you, but measured against what they actually gain, their rate is small and yours isn't. So then the argument comes in, well, he's deserved it. He's earned that. We're not entitled to it. Okay, yes, he's built big successful companies and he's taken on risks that other people wouldn't, and he's made big bets and they've paid off and millions of people freely choose to value what he's made. That itself is fine. Good. Go aspire to have that. No single person's effort produces a fortune of this scale. It comes from thousands of people who actually build the cars and the rockets. It comes from public money. It comes from government contracts, which he has the political power to influence because of the stocks that he doesn't sell. And the rules themselves get rewritten for these people because normally new companies wait months, sometimes a year, before index funds, the ones that your pension feeds, are allowed to buy it. That wait protects ordinary investors. But SpaceX didn't really fancy waiting. So NASDAQ built a fast lane to wave it in within about 15 days, and SpaceX picked NASDAQ because they bent the rules. Now, every pension track in that index is forced to buy shares in a company losing $5 billion a year, and they've basically moved the goalpost to make it possible that a trillionaire can exist, and it's your pension doing the heavy lifting. And the very fact that he is a trillionaire is exactly why you can't be a trillionaire. This isn't a leaderboard where everyone gets to climb it. A fortune of this size only exists by sitting on top of everyone else's low wages and everyone else's pensions. His ceiling is built off your floor. And his wealth isn't even good for the economy. It's actually the sign of a very unwell economy, because for 40 years, we've been sold the fantasy of trickle-down economics that promises that if we let wealth gather at the top, it will trickle down to the rest of us. But you know what? They are right. Something is trickling down to the rest of us. It's just a lot more warmer and smellier and yellow looking. But if you put £1,000 in the hands of a struggling family, nearly all of it gets spent within weeks on food, on bills, on school shoes, straight back into the local economy and on wages. So the more the gains pile up at the top, the less actually moves through the real economy. And the sign of a healthy economy is when money moves. So what happens? Wages stall, rents climb, people stop having kids because they can't afford to have kids, so populations decrease and the cost of everything keeps landing on you, and your high street is bare, there's nothing for kids to do because community centres have no money, restaurants close, local businesses suffer, and then another Starbucks pops up because they're very good at not paying tax. Betting shops keep appearing on the street, and TV shows where people can win lump sums of money becomes back in demand. And then life just feels crap, so you feel apathetic and powerless and like nothing will change, and so you just sit back and watch it happen. And then the contrast of your really hard life against the ultra wealthy's really extravagant life becomes so stark, and it becomes so appealing that you end up worshipping these ultra wealthy people because their lives are so much better than ordinary lives, because ordinary wages don't buy nice lives anymore, which distracts them from actually critiquing how a trillionaire is even possible, and they don't realize that they're playing a different game. Or they do know but they don't care, so they vote against their own interest because they want the water to be warm when they eventually get there. So screw everyone else, they're just poor and lazy and they don't want to work hard and become rich. If someone tells you that your outrage to this is misplaced and objecting to this just means that you're bitter or a scrounger, or you don't understand why we can't just tax the rich, understand that this is the easiest trick going to make you vote against your own interests. Wanting fairer rules is just understanding how the game is actually played. But we massively outnumber them, so We need these loopholes closed so that they pay their fair share of tax. We need politicians to be banned from owning and trading the very shares they're supposed to be regulating, so the people writing the rules can't get rich from leaving them broken. And it doesn't mean that you can't work hard and become wealthy. Heck, I'm working hard. I would like to become wealthy too. That's not the problem. It just means that the place that everyone is starting from isn't so awful. It means that workers might actually be happier and have more disposable income so that they can actually prop up the economy. And as Zach Polanski has said recently, we should make politicians show us who actually funds them, like how F1 drivers have their sponsors all over them, because if a politician is repping oil and gas and have donations from billionaires, we should be seeing that across the podium at which they are speaking from. Because what we are crying out for is leaders with a spine and a backbone who will actually back ordinary people over their donors, because when you back ordinary people, you actually back the economy. Oh, and I did all of that without having a coffee.